What's going on, guys? Time for a little afternoon therapy project. Got something I'm going to work on, and I thought I would bring you guys along and show you, and then I'll explain afterwards the whys and wherefores. So the project is this Russian Spetsnaz shovel. Lots of uses for these. I like them, but there's a couple of things that could be tuned up on them. And if you go over to Badlands Fieldcraft, which I'll put a link to his blog down in the description box, he recently did this exact same project, and I'll give credit to him as being the inspiration for doing this myself. So I'm going to try to follow what he did pretty much right down the list. Maybe a couple of things I'm going to do different, partly out of preference, partly out of necessity, but I'll cover all those as I go. So again, check his out. This is a great little shovel, lots of uses like I said, but not the most secure in the world, especially considering there's only two little teeny tiny screws that hold it onto the handle. And the handle on this one's pretty rough. They must have had the Gulag working overtime when they threw this one together. But it is Russian stamped and all that kind of good stuff. So it's the real deal. It's legit. But we're going to try to make it better. So let me show you what I'm going to do, and we'll get started. Alright, so the very first thing I'm going to do is take these screws out and take the shovel off the handle, and we will not be reusing those screws. That will go to the wayside. So now that gives us handle and shovel head. Step 2. Alright, so the next thing I did was took some sandpaper, some a little rougher, some a little finer. I think this is like 120 and this is like 80, I believe. I can't remember. It's hard to read on the back. Anyway, I sanded down the handle. There were some really rough spots, especially around the end right here where you'd be gripping it a lot. Smoothed everything out in the middle. Some rough spots right here I smoothed out. And that was about it. Rounded these edges a little bit. I'll probably round these just a little bit more to make it just a little more smoother. Sorry about that. But that's pretty much it for that. Sanded the handle. Next, I opened up the two screw holes just a little bit with a larger drill bit, and then I went all the way through the handle out the other side. That will become apparent why in just a little bit. So now there's holes going all the way through. Alright, for the next part, took a larger drill bit and just made some real shallow little divots into the wood, not deep, just little divots to give some extra grip, because what we're fixing to do now is we're going to epoxy the grip, or excuse me, epoxy the handle back into the shovel, and that'll give some little holes for the epoxy to go into and bite into the wood a little bit better. So now on the next part. Alright, so I got my piece of cardboard, got my epoxy and so I can mix it up on the cardboard, not get it on anything. I've cleaned out the inside of the shovel handle really well. I got that finished. So we're ready to mix this up, goop it all up on everything, and put her together. So now for the next one. Alright, so we epoxied the crap out of it. As you can see, I ran two big screws through there. That's through the holes that I drilled. Now, over at Badlands Fieldcraft, you'll note that he used some brass bar stock to do the same thing. I don't have any and couldn't find any and was impatient, so I just used what I had on hand. And what I'll do is, like he did, I'll cut those off once the epoxy's cured, and then I can sand it down, smooth it out, all that kind of good stuff. He went with more of a clear epoxy. The one I got's more of a gray color. I don't suspect that it really matters, but quite honestly, the reason I got this one was simply because when I was at Home Depot getting it, they were really low on choices and options, so I didn't have a whole lot of choices. So if it works, it works. If it don't, well, we'll find out. So I know it looks kind of nasty for now, but I will clean all that up a little bit here once it's cured. It's supposed to be a 6-minute job, so we'll give it a couple hours and see. Alright, so here's where we are now. Epoxy is just about set completely. I cut off and ground down the screws that I put in there. And there's epoxy, of course, in there with them because I gacked it all full ahead of time. So those will act as a stop on each side. And I went ahead, because I've kind of gooped up a little bit of the epoxy around the handle, I just went ahead and took a lot of sandpaper and ground all that off. And since this is a carbon steel blade, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. But the next thing to do is to take care of the handle. Alright, so what I've got here is a little bit of boiled linseed oil and what I think is an old brush. I hope it's an old brush. If it's not an old brush, then my wife will probably let me know. But we're just going to coat this thing like 3 or 4 times. Let this linseed oil kind of really soak into the wood. I didn't pour a lot in here because it's not going to take a lot up front here to get this started. So alright, so we will let that sit and we'll come back later and do some more coats. Okay guys, we are done, or well, mostly done anyway, right? So here is the finished product. You guys. So what I did was, as I showed you, we epoxied the handle in, so now there's no rattle, it's solid. We got the 2 screws through there that are cut off and ground down, and those are epoxied in as well as screwed into the wood. And we gave it some linseed oil treatment. It didn't soak up the linseed oil quite as much as I had wanted, so I might go back and soak the thing again some more for a few more days and see if I can get it to soak up a little more. Regardless, it'll probably, darken up a little bit with oils and stuff off your hands. I did do what Badlands did, put me some impromptu measuring marks on there, so that gives me 6 inches from metal to here of just rough guesstimating of distance. I think it was an easy touch. He used a big nail. I just used my wood burning soldering iron. Put a good coat of OD green alumihide on it. Now a lot of that, well, I shouldn't say a lot, some of that is going to scratch off with use. That's to be expected, and that's perfectly fine. What I wanted it was to cover all the areas where it doesn't get scratched off to protect the metal there, because the areas where it's getting scratched off, those aren't typically going to rust because they're constantly getting used. But being carbon steel, I wanted the rest of it protected as much as I could from the elements. So the only thing I've got left to do, other than, like I said, putting some oil treatment on the handle, is I want to really sharpen up the edge and then get down the left side right here, so you've got the cutting edge as well as your digging edge done. But my Dremel has decided that it has given me all of the life that it wants to give me. So I will have to wait until I can get with my buddy and use his nice, super fancy high-speed Dremel that's still working. So once I do that, I will put me a good edge on here and make it a hacker digger thingamajig. Do the handle some more, and next we're going to throw together just a little simple cover to cover the blade so that once I get it sharpened, it ain't hacking up everything that it touches, such as when I've got it stuck on the side of my ruck or whatever. And I think this is going to be a great tool. So, touching on a couple of things, I have long used the good old GI trifold shovel, right? That's been a mainstay staple of mine for as long as I can remember. As good as they are, they do have some weaknesses, i.e. They are pretty heavy. In fact, I think it's actually a little heavier than this. You got 2 hinge points in them, and those hinge points are potential weak points. Note, potential. This is one solid blade with one solid wooden handle that, should I ever need to replace the handle, I can always drill out the 2 screws that I put in there and remove said handle and stick a new one in. But I don't think this one's going to break. It is long enough, strong enough. You should be able to use this one for a long time without any issues with the handle giving you problems. So as a field tool, this gives you a lot of capability where you don't have to carry a lot of extra tools. For one, digging. All kind of reasons why you might want to dig. You may want to bury and hide something. You may want to make you an improved fighting position. You may want to dig a cat hole. You may want to dig a fire hole. You may want to clear out an area to pitch camp for the night and not be laying on top of, all kind of junk. A lot of things that you could do with that. The side of it, you can actually hack, once you sharpen it, small limbs and branches and even small pieces of wood. Should that be a concern or a need that you need to do. You could hammer stuff with it. If you needed to drive in a couple of stakes to pitch a tarp in a hurry. Again, all kind of uses that you can get out of this in just one tool. It also serves the purpose historically, and again, that's why you sharpen this edge, of making a really good improvised fighting tool if you gotta whack some zombies or orcs in the head up real close. It will excel at that. So, there's the old Russian shovel. Now, you can get a cold steel version. I know a few people that have got those and they love them. I very well may grab one of the cold steel ones just to give it a side-by-side comparison to this one. And the fact that I already know as soon as my sons get a hold of this one and see it, they're going to want one. So, one way or the other, I'm probably going to have to get more, whether it's more of these originals or the cold steel ones or whatever. Irregardless, probably get one to do a comparison on. We'll see that down the road. So, there you go. This is my little shameless follow and copy of Badlands Fieldcraft and tuning up the old Russian Spetsnaz shovel. I'm going to put a link down in the description box to his blog site. Please go check out his blog. A lot of great stuff over there. Dude's legit. Alright? Pay attention to what he's saying. Yes, I know. I'll get to you in a minute. And check him out. So there you go. Again, you'll see the similarities between the way he did his and the way I did mine. Not a whole lot of difference, but a little. And that's it. You guys take care. I will see you later. Oh, one more thing. You guys may notice that I did this whole thing without any coffee. So, to paraphrase Cousin Dick, y'all know what time it is. I'm going to go get another coffee.